Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Henry Levesque, and today I will be talking about generative artificial intelligence, specifically in higher education. I'm going to start with a very short introduction to me and why I'm talking about this topic specifically. Then we'll go over a brief background of generative AI. Then we'll have a really quick demonstration, then some time for comments and discussion. My name is Henry Levesque. I am a PhD student studying regional development planning at the University of Cincinnati. I am also a presidential fellow, and my research is on smart cities, artificial intelligence, technology, and accessibility. And I'm really interested in how we can use all of these tools, both in a higher education context, in a research context, and also just to improve people's everyday lives. So, brief background on AI. There are some terms from companies like OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, and Meta. There are a lot of different ways to access these tools, from ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, and Microsoft Designer, which we're actually going to be getting into a little bit later. From Google, you can use Google Search, Google Cloud. There are also things like Hugging Face and Olama, which will allow you access to these tools. These tools, Hugging Face and Olama, will also allow you to use different AI tools from Meta. So those are the interfaces. The underlying large language models from these different companies are the different GPTs from ChatGPT, which used to be GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is now GPT 4.0 or 4.0, as some of them call it. Microsoft, their Microsoft Copilot and Microsoft Designer, I believe, run on GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. Google has its Gemini family of large language models, as well as its Gemma family of smaller models. Meta has the Llama family of models, such as Llama 2 and Llama 3. So if you couldn't already tell, I have to make a quick disclaimer. There will be a lot of strange and or nonsensical names, terms, acronyms, and abbreviations throughout this. I'm not sure why they decide to name all these things in such crazy ways, but that's what we have. So a brief background on artificial intelligence, specifically generative intelligence. So artificial intelligence is, in this context, generative artificial intelligence, which comes in the form of large language models. These models can be the unimodal models or multimodal models. And what this means is unimodal models work in single modalities of data, while multimodal models work with multiple modalities of data. What this means more specifically is that a single modality of data could be, for instance, code or text. This means you give it text, it processes it, and gives you back text. Same thing with giving it code or text, and it can generate back code or text. Code is in the form of text, so that can work pretty smoothly. There are also some vision models that will give you back images. This is in contrast to the multimodal models, which can work with multiple modalities, and you can give them one thing and get that same thing out, or a different modality. So you can give them text and they will give you back images or video or audio, or in some cases, even 3D models that can be generated just from text or just from images. So this brings us really quickly to our demonstration. This is the prompt that I will be working with. It is in this presentation, I demonstrate how ChatGPT and other AI tools can be used to quickly generate a presentation on a given topic without any guardrails or fact checking, and that will be key later. I will use freely available tools such as Google Slides, ChatGPT, DALL-E to generate a presentation on the use of AI in universities. So that's the prompt. That's my thesis. That's what I'm working with here. But I really only need this last part here because that's really what I want to do, to generate a presentation on the use of AI in universities. So I'll just isolate that. And then I'll add just a tiny bit. I want to generate specifically an academic 5-slide presentation on the use of AI in universities because it's for universities. It's for an academic context. So I want it to be academic. Some other things I want the AI to give me are slide titles, slide content, image suggestions, and prompts for generating those images, because those are some of the components of a presentation that I will be using. So this is just a blank slide with a heading, a little bit of body text, and then a blank spot over here for images. So I'm actually going to escape out of this presentation and kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. So this is Canva. This is a free online tool that is very similar to PowerPoint. Some of you may have already used something like this. So I'm just going to go back to this and I'm going to copy my prompt. Control C. And now for text, I'm going to be using this tool, which is Microsoft Copilot for Bing. It is free. I am logged in, but you don't really need to be logged in. So I'm just going to Control V, paste my prompt in here, and we'll see what I get. So you can see pretty quickly, I get a lot of content that I can use. And this is 5 different slides, which I can then just cut and paste back in. One of the most complex things I'm actually going to do is just move this out of the way and then split screen. I'm going to move that over here and then move this over to this side. Okay, go back to here. Slide 1, introduction. I'm just going to copy that, paste there, a little bit of editing, which again could be completely unnecessary if I'm just going for speed. And then I can grab this content, Control C, Control V, and then I'm just going to make that a bit smaller. Again, just using Control A in order to bring that size down. And just a tiny bit of editing just to get rid of these things that I don't need. Again, the key is that this takes very little time. It's very easy to do and does not require any kind of double checking or guardrails. I can just cut and paste directly into Microsoft Copilot and then just cut and paste exactly what it gives me back over into my PowerPoint presentation software. So now I'm just going to duplicate this page and then bring in the content for my second slide. And I can do a tiny bit of moving things around. Again, just the bare minimum before I duplicate again. And just using some very basic keyboard shortcuts, Control A to select all, Control C to copy, and Control V to paste. Right clicking down here, adding another page. Here's slide 4. And deleting this. There's an underline here. That's because it was giving me a link. I'm not really sure that that link is actually uh, a real link, or if it is a real link, I'm not totally sure if that link is actually saying what the AI system is telling me that it is saying. But for the purposes of this, that doesn't really matter because again, the purpose of this is go as quickly as possible, as little work as possible, and just copying and pasting to see if we can get a somewhat cohesive presentation. Okay. Now, one thing that it didn't do is generate images. I did ask it in my prompt up here to give me prompts for generating the images because I didn't want to have to put any thought into what images may or may not be appropriate for this presentation. So I can just go back down here where it does say that it can generate some images for me. So I'm going to see what happens if I click that. Okay, now it is giving me the actual prompts. So I can just copy those over into Copilot's designer. This is just a really simple image generation tool that I can then use to generate images to go along with my 5 slides back over here. And while it generates, I'm going to, okay, here's an image that might work. I'm just going to copy and paste the image over here and move it to the side. Okay. Now let's go to our second one. See what we get. Okay, this first one should work. Copy image, come back over here and paste. Go to our third. Pasting it over and then moving it. Our 4. Again, all of this is being done online through free tools, and it doesn't require any special hardware or really any special knowledge to use these tools. And the longer we wait, the more powerful these tools are getting. And so the more cohesive or realistic or compelling these tools are able to be. Okay, this is our last image. And then I'll paste it over here and move it. Okay, now that we have completely generated our entire 5-slide academic presentation in AI in just a couple minutes, we can close this, reopen this, and go back to our first slide. And the purpose of this is not to be the best presentation you've ever seen, but to just be good enough, compelling enough to show you how these kind of tools could be potentially used without any sort of oversight in an academic context. So I'm going to quickly jump back into the presentation again. And now I can present this as if it was my own work as a student who might be a little bit rushed or hurried, might be tempted to do. Not to say that all students are doing this or that all students will be tempted to do this, just to say that it's important to understand how these tools could potentially be used in order to really understand what to do about it or how to react to it. So, AI in higher education. I can give a little brief overview. I could realize that this is really telling me what to say rather than telling me the exact words to use. So I could, if I wanted to, spend a little bit of extra time to make this work better. But I think, as a lot of students might be able to do, I can kind of wing it. So I can just take this and say, AI has had a rapid rise in adoption over the past 5 years. There are multiple benefits for instructors and students, and some of these include personalized learning, feedback, assessments, and many others. Here are some practical applications for AI in higher education: personalized learning, use of intelligent tutoring systems, some virtual assistants or chatbots, the ability to provide instant support for students, automated grading and feedback, as well as streamlining assessment processes, research and data analysis, and AI can help in research tasks. AI can be integrated into higher education. Universities are already incorporating AI into their curriculum. There are exciting new programs related to AI development and research. And there are many examples of AI coursework like machine learning, ethics, and natural language processing. There are some challenges for this. So as we navigate the landscape of AI in higher education, we need to consider some ethical considerations like bias, privacy, and transparency, faculty training and readiness, but there are lots of opportunities like enhancing student success and streamlining administrative processes. So, in conclusion, what lies ahead? There are a lot of emerging trends for AI in universities, from campus security, enrollment, and student retention, and we should be encouraging further research and innovation. Thank you. So that is the end of my AI presentation made by AI. And even though was kind of an example of what a lot of professors ask students not to do in terms of reading directly from the slides. You can pretty easily imagine what would happen if you, instead of copying everything directly onto the slide, just copied it into the slide notes and use that as a script, and then generated something slightly different to go on the slide itself. So not a perfect presentation, but a presentation that in many cases could be good enough, could be fast enough, and convincing enough. So my point in all of this is that it's important to understand how these tools might be used, how they can be used, and how easy it is to use these tools in order to figure out what we're going to do with or about them. Thank you very much.